Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Redemption Project. I am Brandon Burley, and I have Genevieve with me today. She is going to talk to us all about lobbying. And I know everybody hears lobbyist and they think it's a big, scary word, and we're going to kind of demystify some of it and explain it. And hopefully, we can help you guys to understand what a lobbyist is actually doing so you can make up your mind how you feel about it then. All right, without further ado, welcome, Genevieve. How are you?
I am wonderful, Brandon. Thank you for having me on here.
And I am so glad that I got to have you on here because we've probably talked back and forth for probably a year or so now at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
It's been a
I don't
while.
remember. I was trying to remember today. I was like, how did we even get in touch? I don't know. But they're like, you got to talk to this guy. He loves criminal justice stuff. He's as nerdy as you. I was like, oh,
I don't remember who along the way. I feel like maybe it was Charm, but it may not have been.
it'll come to me.
So, all that to say, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. And now you've got your own lobbying firm. What's it called? What do you do? Who are you representing? I want to know everything about it. Talk me through it.
I love that you had me to be the guest that talks about lobbying because I'm like a fresh baby lobbyist. I've done in-house for 4 years, and so now doing another side of it. But it's called Opal Advocacy. And so what makes an opal more expensive and prettier is those different colors, which is called the fire. And so I think that's a pretty fitting term for exactly what I'm trying to do. And so I'm not just a traditional lobbyist, I'd say. There are some, they are affectionately, not so affectionately known as a hired gun, which is great. I partner with a firm that takes on clients like that, become subject matter experts and liaisons between people trying to pass laws or affect policy and the people making the policies. And so I do a portion of that. So what I used to do as in-house, I worked for a nonprofit. And so part of our goal was, yes, it's a nonprofit. So the government, we're supposed to be really using donor dollars and foundation dollars in the community. But there are some times when a nonprofit steps into the role of what the government should be doing, and perhaps some government funding should be spent on that. And so I was working with people in prison and coming out of prison. And so we fought for an appropriation, which means getting into the state's budget. And that's something that a more traditional lobbyist might do as well. But let's say you've got an issue that, okay, here's a good one. You're representing the association for trying to better autism awareness or education for autistic kids. So this association might have something triggered them as to this is hard. There's some regulatory matters or there's some legislation preventing us from being able to do what we need to do in a better way. So they hire a lobbyist to come in and say, hey, I am paying you for your legislative, your political capital, your social capital. So you can't take on too many cases or too many clients because you can't just believe in everybody, right? Or at least for me. And so you become the subject matter expert in autism and what's going on in the state of Tennessee and prior legislation and the bureaucratic measures that's preventing something. And you talk to the legislators and state departments and maybe even other people in the field and try to bring folks together to educate and to change things that hopefully are doing good, or to kill bills, which some would say is even more important, that do harm.
It really helps to explain what lobbyists are because I think most people summarize lobbyists, at least the feedback that I've gotten from people that maybe don't understand, is they think every lobbyist is either working for guns or abortion, and that's just it. And there's nothing else that they are working towards. And what you've just explained right there is a great one, autism awareness, right? So that is a fantastic topic that I think a lot of people could get behind and maybe takes a little bit of the stigma away from what people think of lobbyists. So that said, you talked about in-house. What is in-house versus what you're doing now?
There are lots of different types of lobbyists. And so that is like the example I just gave you is you are there all the time during sessions, so the first 4 or 5 months of the year when all of our legislators are in Nashville trying to pass these laws or kill them. And so you are there every day. You are for a mission of only policy, only laws in that sense. And so there are other types of lobbying, which I also do, which would be, let's say I've got a private vendor. And so I've got someone that has promised they're going to provide tablets for all of the folks who are incarcerated in the prison system. As you can imagine, in multi-million-dollar contracts between the private and the public sector, some liaising needs to occur. And so that private company would hire someone like me to run interference, to make sure that the state's getting what they have paid for, to make when there's problems, because that could happen when we get hundreds and thousands of new tablets. And so that relationship, so again, using social capital, getting to know the Department of Correction and making it a bit more personal. So that's one thing that's really fun. Really, I like that. I think ensuring that these state dollars are being used in a manner that is getting what the contract says. I love that stuff. It's awesome. Nerd like you, right? And so part of it, Opal Advocacy also leans into, I've been in nonprofits and business world for a little bit, and change management. You've heard that term, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a real shit sometimes. You have all these best of intentions, but there's not clear lines of communication. People have responsibilities that they don't know if they or the people they now have to oversee. There's not clear, yes, you now have authority to do that. Growth, I've seen it done well and I've seen it done really poorly. And a lot of that comes to communication. So that's another little fun thing for Opal Advocacy.
It sounds like you've got your hand in 5 different cookie jars at the moment.
You got to drum it up, man. Who knows what you're good at until you start looking at what you've done in the past and you're like, I could do that.
Absolutely. And I think that you have excellent time management skills. So every time I talk to you, you're managing the clock well. So you do great.
Tell my husband that.
I will. But now see, he gets the other side of it. So also, like me, I'm married. My wife is a COO of a company. So her time is extremely valuable while she's at work. But then when her time's with me, I'm like, I can waste your time a little bit. That's the perks of being married to you.
Really?
So when you take on a client, is there a deconfliction tool that you know that, hey, this doesn't interfere with anything else that I'm doing or I have done in the past that maybe I'm still under contract for or anything like that?
Yeah, there's pretty stringent rules, ethics rules. It's nothing like I'd say for lawyers, the ethics requirements, but it's still pretty stringent because you are, especially on the larger, if you are dealing with PACs or super PACs or larger amounts of donations, high capacity donors, they want to ensure that as best as we can, working towards not buying out systems or people.
Sure.
And yeah, our ethics we do reports on those kinds of things. We can't have conflicts of interest just like anybody else. And so that is a tool we have to use to really ensure there's no conflicts.
Now, you also have to register with the state as a lobbyist, right? And when you do that, how can people find the lobbyists? Like, where do you guys register? Is there a database or a query that they can run to see, is this person a lobbyist that's talking to me, or are they just a regular Joe Schmo?
There's iLobby. And so you can go to, I think it's iLobbyTN, or just type in lobbyist search iLobby Tennessee, it'll pop up. But you can look by employers. And so you can say, hey, who all does AT&T employ for lobbyists in the state of Tennessee, or a hospital or whatever it is? So you can see who the employer of those lobbyists are, or you can do it by lobbyist name, and we get to put our little picture up there. You get our best attempt at a headshot. Those do not require to be updated. So I'm still looking good back when I got that picture taken.
It's actually the one that I used for this.
Yeah. Maybe I need to get some AI going.
Get some AI going. So how many clients can a lobbyist generally take on? How many would you feel comfortable taking on?
It depends what I'm doing. And that's funny. I was talking to another lobbyist that I work with a little bit yesterday. And so you can look up each lobbyist and see who all they have as clients. And you can't help it, just human nature to kind of look like, oh, you got 20 or you've got 3. So I was laughing with him and I was like, I'm taking different sets of clients now with that business venture and looking into the leadership and the change management consultations and implementation. But there is some look-see-loo there as to who has what. And it really ranges. It really depends what all everyone works on. Some clients want you full year, always doing things. Some hire you just for session to try to pass something or get in the budget. And during session, if I take on a bunch of bills, you have to imagine how many committees I'm sitting in. You don't just propose a bill and it goes out on the floor. There are committees, sometimes multiple committees, that hear those bills and amendments come because lobbyists start working on, we can agree with this language if you amend this, and then we'll shut up and not lobby against it, or whatever it might be. And so there's a lot going on. And if you have 20 big clients, you're going to have partners or other people to bring in to tell your client what all's going on in those committees and where they stand. Get them meetings with legislators to explain it themselves, that kind of stuff.
Now, how difficult is that for a lobbyist to be able to manage that time and to keep accurate notes and to make sure that they're passing along the right information? I can only imagine you basically need a scribe with you at all times, don't you?
You better be pretty good at taking notes. Yeah. I think there's also, all right, let's say I'm not typing it down verbatim of what they're saying. I am thinking through, all right, here are the legislators who are not okay with this, or here's who's speaking out, or here's who had good questions that we could probably talk through some of that some more. You're looking at who you need to influence. And then, yes, when details come out, especially amendments, looking at amendments, notes are important. I'd say really scribing it out.
So what you're saying is for the first few months of the year at Tennessee Capitol, and you walk in and you go up the stairs and you go to the second floor, you're basically standing right there in the middle of the second floor trying to catch everybody you can. Is that pretty accurate description of your daily life?
Yeah. So you can set up, if you go to the legislative aides, so lobbyists, constituents, whatever, you go in and you get a 15-minute spot. Sometimes just because that's all the time they have, especially toward the end of session, they've got 80 bills left that haven't been heard in committee. And so oftentimes it's like elevator spiel and you're on your way. And then as you get to know people and you become somewhat of a subject matter expert or someone they can trust, they'll call you and say, hey, I got a big question on this. Can you please come up to my office?
Sure.
It does come down sometimes to grabbing people in the hall, like stalking. I told one guy this year, I was like, I really apologize for stalking right now, but I'm going to talk to you as we walk up these stairs. It is, yes, they are a little bit of time for a lot of bit of people and big topics.
Sure. So then how does a lobbyist differ from the average citizen that has an opinion about a topic? Let's say that you're doing the autism one and I'm the Grinch. And I'm like, no, we don't want to protect autistic kids and we don't want them to have school and all that. And I'm a private citizen. What's the difference between you and me in that scenario?
I think there's both. I know the word advocate is in the title of my firm and it's true, but someone who's coming in from the general public typically is very biased, and that's not bad. That's the reason they're coming, is to share that opinion. And they should. We need to have people who show our legislators, hey, these are what the people in Tennessee think and feel. They can sign up to testify in front of a committee. They can go exactly like you said and sign up with legislative aides, especially if they're constituents. They need to find their legislator because they care about their constituents the most. And what a lobbyist sometimes, often, again, we have relationships with these folks. We see them outside of stuff. We talk to them about their kids. We talk to them about them as people. And so it really is being a professional in it. You hold that both ends. I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, but here's multiple sides to this coin. I see what you're saying. Can we amend? Can we both find a happy medium where we both a little bit lose and both feel like we won a little bit, which is a good negotiation. The relationships and the seeing people as people, not just their worst bill or worst thing they said on the floor or whatever it is, that goes a long way in being able to tell a story. We also have historical knowledge. For the first year, you're brought into this huge hot button social issue. That happened 8 years ago. Here's who voted for it. Here's who didn't. Here's what that looked like. Here's how it went through committee. Hey, it actually went to summer session. Could we rekindle that? Whatever it is. And advocacy is important and standing up for what you believe and being heard. But we're professionals in the field that try to be unbiased to some degree and work with the legislators as opposed to just telling them an opinion. And we consult our clients on that. We consult clients on, you feel hot about that. Let's talk through how you can present well.
And that, I think that could be a great lesson for all of the citizens, which is, hey, just because we feel strongly about something doesn't mean that the other position doesn't have any valid points. And we can absolutely talk it through and find. When I was doing a gubernatorial roundtable not too long ago, I had a Democrat, independent, and a Republican, and they, on paper, could not have appeared any further apart. And yet, when I was asking questions, I have a section where it's yes, no, maybe. And they all had to answer with either a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a flat hand for maybe. And then after they all did their hand, then they get to explain for 10 or 15 seconds. 9 out of 10 questions they all agreed on. They differed on how they wanted to get there, what the governing perspective was on how they would accomplish it. But for 9 out of 10 questions, they agreed. And the one that they didn't, it was just, there was a caveat that changed it. I think we would add a perfect 10 for 10. And on paper, these people could not have seemed any further apart. And so I think that's a great lesson, just like what you were saying, to be able to point out and say, hey, we actually have a lot of overlap here. What can we both agree on? And what's going to make us both a little bit happy and a little bit unhappy? Because that's the best negotiation. When both people leave a little happy and a little unhappy, I think, at least in my opinion, it feels like, hey, now we've actually accomplished something.
I believe it. That's the mission for me. As to, there's a lot of folks who try to, what are you going to do in the world? How are you going to spread? I grew up in evangelical Christianity, and I've just never been like the Bible tract laying on the floor. let me tell you about the good news kind of person. I think that oneness you're talking about as to unifying in the face of things that are really seems so like partisanism, all of that, that the spirit of it can be taken out of it. And I think that's part of my job is to, how do we unify? How do we see people as people? How do we come to yes, or figure out, see what's the most beautiful thing, right? When you're sitting in that room with them and they're all like, yeah, we actually agree. And now everyone's a buddy. We might even be able to have a beer together at the end of this. Like,
Yeah.
that brings, I think, what our purpose is of unifying instead of dividing.
And I think that there's already so much division, and everywhere you turn around and you look, it is just rhetoric. This person's horrible. These people are evil, whatever the case may be. And it's, guys, we all put on our pants the same way every day. Let's just sit down and have a conversation.
Actually, I do 2 legs at once. I hop into my pants every day. It's a new
thing, right? Of all the people, that wouldn't surprise me, actually. You jump right into them and then
ready for the day. Like, here we go.
That's right. You're off and running for the day. I frequently use that "we put on our pants the same way" expression. And obviously, T. Scott. And I was on his program maybe 6-7 months ago. And I said, all the people that come on your show, they're all dressed up. I'm like, T. Scott, I just want to wear a hoodie. Okay. You know me. I just want to wear a hoodie. And he's like, Brandon, you can wear whatever you want. And then he brings it up on air and he goes, Brandon reached out to me and asked if he could wear his hoodie. And I'm like, that's because we all put on our pants the same way, right? It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to wear what I want, what I'm comfortable in, which is off-putting to some people. Some people don't like that. And the same can be said when you start talking about things that maybe you're lobbying for a client and there's somebody that's just so adamantly against it. And how do you break through that barrier to say, hey, there's going to be some common ground. We actually can work together.
There's some hot button issues that are being legislated.
Absolutely.
When it comes to gender, either affirming care or not allowing it, or children, a lot of some who believe that gender affirming care would be against their belief system, and some on the other side are totally for it in their belief system, and come to find out they're both Christians that go to churches every Sunday. Or having to show people, again, like, well, you just said putting pants on the same way. And it's easy to get caught up in this, allowing people to use rhetoric or start saying that. But if you make people feel too comfortable in that, then it's harder later to say, hey, that's not really what I want. I want to be bipartisan and unbiased and not use poor language either way, no matter what I feel. If I walk out and they know my stance on something, I probably haven't fought for my client how I'm supposed to, because I serve at their pleasure. And I'm also not doing what I need professionally for the future, which is to be trustworthy,
sure,
to not get stuck in my emotion, those kinds of things. And so no matter what I take a stance on, I try to divorce that and see people as people. I watch my language. Maybe not all my language, how I talk about it. How about that? How I talk about the others, because I think that spreads. And there's some things that no matter, like, people aren't going to bend on at all. Sure. And you just have to say, okay, I respectfully disagree. And then you have to mean that. You have to respectfully disagree. And there's some legislators that do that really well, and some who kind of use those differences to show pony. And at different times, there's seasons of, it's election season.
So speaking of election season, are you going to stay a state lobbyist within the state of Tennessee, or do you have plans to start doing national lobbying and go to DC, or what does that look like for you?
Who knows? It's kind of like a let go and let God situation. My husband's position has gotten to where he is in the department, has gotten to almost a political position, because his direct boss is the cabinet member, the commissioner. And so we're going to have a new governor. Who knows if they're going to have somebody that they want to bring into that spot. And if they were to bring a new commissioner, a lot of times my husband's job would be someone they might bring with them. They have their own team or people that they trust. Now, Richard's made it through several administrations, and he's the last historian with institutional knowledge of the department and does a really good job. And so he might be able to, but I don't know till the end of the year what our lives look like. But I also am leaning into a lot of things that I can do pretty virtual. DC is a whole different ballgame.
Oh, yeah.
Big healthcare, national, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so I think DC's cool. I was born there. I'd love to go back, but I'm not sure what lobbying in that world even looks like. I'd hate to pretend.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a completely different environment, especially because of how Tennessee legislation works versus federal legislation. They almost are completely different. The addendums that people put onto bills at the national level, it's insane. It's almost like my insurance contract. I've got 47 riders on there and I don't know what half of them mean.
Real little words.
Yeah. So all that to say, I think you guys brought this up, so I'll touch on it. August is going to be a big month for you guys to really start figuring out what the future holds and where it's going to go. And then November obviously will be probably an even bigger one for you. What does that mean for you as far as, because we're not in session right now, what does that mean for you for work? Like, what kind of lobbying work are you doing right now while you're waiting to find out what the future is going to hold?
It's a lot of relationship building, management. Again, if I don't know, yes, I know Tennessee well, but
Sure.
For instance, I'm about to go out and visit Utah's leadership in DOC. I've gotten to know them at conferences. They have awesome ideas that a lot of people aren't trying out. Their leadership is phenomenal and they do good programs. And that's how I've stemmed. I am very interested in what programs work and don't have unintended negative consequences so that other departments can know about them or we can implement them all over, whatever that looks like. And I'm speaking now about corrections, but going out and seeing what they do, getting to know them more on a more personal level, like where are holes that you're seeing in the department? Where are holes with your food contract or your medical contract? Getting kind of in the weeds with some of that and hanging out with more sheriffs, hanging out with people that I might not know that. So that later when we talk, I'm not just, hey, I've got this product for you. I'm like, I know what your jail, where your problem areas are, and I'd like to introduce you to these folks. And again, that business, I'm really intrigued and interested in this pushing forward in the more business consultation role.
Okay. So it's interesting that you talk about sheriffs. Obviously, in Tennessee, we're going to have a bunch of new sheriffs here in 45 days. I don't even know what it's today, July 2nd. There's going to be a bunch of changes. And then obviously the legislature is going to turn over. And then there's going to be a new governor. And then there's going to be a litany of changes that could affect what you're doing. But at the same time, what you just said about going out to Utah and visiting their Department of Corrections and learning, that just continues to build that subject matter expertise for you. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't understand about lobbyists. It's one of those, I've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly from people about it, but they all think you're going out to dinner every night with a politician, buying them dinner, sliding them a gold bar and saying, vote my way, right? And so that's the picture that people keep bringing to me. And I'm like, that's not what a lobbyist does. But here, hold on. Let's get the lobbyist here and have her explain what they do.
There's a lot of dinners. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, but that's also, you do that during session. People, they're out there in Nashville for 4 days in a row. They got to eat. People hang out. That's just, I think people are really weirded out by that, and it can be weird sometimes. But if it's normal colleague behavior and you can kind of leave work at home and do stuff, you just have to know who you are and what kind of lobbyist you want to be. And as a legislator, you have to know what kind of legislator you want to be. And if it's one that takes bribes or does whatever, I think people think it's more prevalent than it is. There's a lot of checks and balances, but it's not like it doesn't happen. And the same with lobbyists. Like, people sometimes aren't afraid to be what people think of as a lobbyist a lot of time. And I'll tell you, like, going to a party and someone, what do you do? And I say lobbyist, it's not very popular. They're like, oh. So, I mean, it's not like it's a total
to be
lie.
fair, your previous position was also, you probably get a lot of head turns with that one. That's funny. I truly appreciate you coming on, explaining to us what a lobbyist does, the business consultation side of it, how much more there is that goes into it. And it is a fascinating world that I think we just kind of scratched the surface on, but there's so much underneath of it that I think is amazing. Now, without us having to go search and see who your clients are, do you have a robust client list, or are you trying to keep it small, or how's that working for you?
Both, I think. So both right now. So I started, here's what's fun. I went on my own in the middle of session.
Yeah.
So I was in-house until I resigned in February, and then gave them 5 weeks of continuing to work full-time for them. So it was this kind of strange in between ethics of, I didn't want to take on a lot. So I kept them as a client. I kept Men of Valor as a client through the end of session and signed one more person for the remaining 2 months. And so just 2, and then I have others that are doing the business consultation type roles. I'm pitching one today. It's one of those, I'm 40, I turned 40 this year. And so it's like teaching and tricks and like, all right, got to sell myself in a weird capacity. But the definition of lobbying is just influencing. If you are influencing legislators, executive branch, policymakers, it's not just showing up with a bill. Like I said, it's influence. And so helping those who want to be heard do that in a long-term way. And so, yeah, I'm trying to find folks who fit that mold and not just take things for the money. And I'm in a very awesome place to be able to build a book. And I was put on retainer with another firm. So they're a large firm. They have PAC money. They have years and years, like over 20 years of influence in the space in Tennessee. And so you just got to go with some of the money so you can eat when you start out, also ensuring that you're not setting yourself up to do what you don't want to do.
Sure. And I think it's probably a pretty tricky area to make sure that you're navigating a minefield like that the way that you want to in the long run. So I wish you the best in that. And I'm so excited to see you on this new path. And I hope it is everything that you want it to be and dream it to be. And it turns out exactly what you guys need. And so, of course, I'm always here if you need anything. And so I look forward to hearing some fun stories and maybe learning more about lobbying as time goes on as well.
Yeah, you've crushed it, Brandon. When we first met, you hadn't started the podcast yet. You were just starting to do your features on redemption stories.
Yeah.
Like you have, and now you're talking to governor, future governors. So it's pretty cool. It's on two legs at a tongue too, I think.
And it's that 40 thing, right? But I think it's also one of those, I'm just persistent. I'm like, hey guys, when are we going to do this? Let's go. And they're like, I'm like, no, you'll be all right. Come on, let's go.
You're in. Yeah. Cool. I'm very glad to get to talk to you and make other people watch us have a conversation.
I love it. All right, Genevieve, thank you so much. If you'll do me a favor, hang on while I end this. Otherwise, it's going to make you glitch out, and then you're going to get a completely different type of makeover that you don't want. So,
thank you.
All right, guys, thank you for watching the Redemption Project. Have a great day.